So I'll just tell everyone what we're doing really quick. So if I put this up on YouTube, so speaking with Daniel Hirmas and what he's doing, he has a drill core system and a box imaging system where the images aren't coming out too well in Zareen Stacker. So we're going to sort of troubleshoot and see why that is.
All right, I guess we're gonna go ahead and go.
Okay, is your
It's
audio
not
okay?
great, but we're still gonna
Okay,
go on from there. But okay,
sure. So the first thing to do, looking at this first image, let's go to the bottom of the directory and click on the very last image to see if the focal plane moved from the beginning to the end. Okay, so it moved. Now can you move in the other direction, starting with this image, hit the up arrow?
sure.
Okay, so, so this is definitely the main issue. Do you know, so really what's happening is you're getting too significant of an overlap per individual focal plane. So the focal plane is pretty long. Really, it looks like you could have captured a complete image in only three images here. Like
Okay.
that literally looks how like that looks like where you're at. So can I just ask what lens is this?
You know what the lens is? This is the 65 millimeter.
Yep. And do you know what magnification you're at?
What magnification did you run on this?
2x.
2x from the lens. Okay.
2x. Okay, so and are you using the auto distant function?
Yeah, that was what?
Auto distance. Are you using the auto distance?
5 micrometer.
No, I mean,
The step size?
no, I think it's. Is this like an autofocus?
What's that?
Is it an autofocus?
No, not an autofocus. Not if you're using the 65, it's a manual focus lens.
Manual focus. Okay. Did you? Was there a manual? I'm not actually sure.
Yep.
Do you want
So
to?
so what's happening? So I'll just kind of troubleshoot this really quickly.
Yeah.
So what's happening is you're setting your focal plane way too small. So you're over capturing data and
Okay.
it's way too much for Zareen Stacker to process because you're basically overlapping the same area that's in focus again and again and again.
Okay.
So that's why Zareen Stacker isn't outputting the images very well. But so if you were to go to, let me just think about where my folder is. So I'm in my Dropbox. Uh, I just need to grab the workflow document. Okay, so I'm opening the workflow now. And I'm in the pin specimen label photography, so this is the TPT, but it's the same thing as the Excel spreadsheet that you have. Actually, I'll do that. I'll open the Excel spreadsheet. So at the 65 millimeter, are you using the lens? Are you cropping the lens? Is it 1.6x crop or is it full 1:1? Do you know?
Are you? Did you hear that question, Swagata? That was a question to you.
No.
Can you repeat the question?
So I'm curious if the lens is the camera itself, the sensor is cropped at all. So is there a 1.6x crop or are you shooting full frame right now? Because there's two different methods.
Is there a crop or are you shooting full frame?
No, full frame.
Full
Full
frame.
frame.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't. No,
Yep,
I didn't.
that's perfect. So then you're using the 65 at full frame at 2x magnification. So your step size should be 300 microns. I don't know if you still have your stack shot set up, but if this was the last thing you shot, it would have preserved your most recently used settings.
Why don't you set it? Why don't you open it up so we can see those?
Yeah.
So whatever,
The step size must be changed. Yeah.
I mean, whatever the when you set it up.
yep. So I'm gonna guess if you went from the micro kit or something that had much higher optics, yeah, that's exactly what I'm referring to. Yeah, so that 65 millimeter lens, you're green, you're actually highlighting the 1x right now, so you're in the right area.
Why is this saying this? Excuse. Okay, so you see, sorry, I don't know why it's. We
I
have
can't.
a
Yeah,
subscription to
I
this.
had a problem with Microsoft too. I couldn't actually see the screenshots you sent me, so I don't know what's going on with Microsoft.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's weird. Okay. Um,
looks like it wants you to re-register. But either way,
yeah.
you
Well,
you
yeah.
can see the information from here. So you're highlighted over the MP65 1X, which is right where you want to be. So that's not the cropped area, that's the right area. And then the step size there in the column says 300 microns. So we need to make sure that on your stack shot controller, that depth, what is that figure set to on the controller? So that would be typically
What's the
my
step?
Z. That would be my Z axis. So the question is, I don't know if you're using the same axis.
It's 5 micrometers.
5.
Yeah.
So
So,
that's why that's the problem right there. So it looks like some.
but okay, just to be clear, I think you
I
had tried a much coarser step size,
yeah.
and it still didn't yield very good results. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
What was
so
the step size? Was it 300?
It was not 300. It was, yeah, 350 micrometer.
350 micrometers.
okay,
So maybe you went too far the other way.
so where is that folder? Do you still have that folder?
Yeah, I can show you.
Yeah, let's go to that one.
It should.
Yeah, just rule of thumb though is that Excel spreadsheet is pretty well established. So if
Sure.
there's a problem, try not to change those numbers. It must be a different issue. So
Okay.
we'll kind of start
you have
with
to
this.
find them
We'll start
first.
here and then we'll go from there.
I deleted the other photos.
Okay, so looks like we deleted them.
Okay, well, how did they turn out? Can I just see real quick?
Well, not very well,
Not
right?
really good.
Well, why don't you click on one of them? Yeah.
Well, this one is the
Yeah.
another photos.
Okay, so
So
that
if you
one's
zoom in,
so that one's more of a so the quality there is good, but your lighting is poor.
the lighting is poor.
Yeah, so what's happening is because you have all right, so this is yep, so because you have a cylinder like that and you have soil that's deep inside, the light looks like it's too oblique. So can I ask, are you using the flash?
You can just
Here, yeah. Okay. All right, here's a different one. Yeah, you're using the flash, right?
is it
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, so even this one, the lighting is still pretty poor though.
Okay. So I think we have some kind of, but you see how it's like pretty blurry even when you start zooming in like that.
Yep. So that could be a couple things, but let's kind of troubleshoot this one by one. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so starting with lighting, because that's the first issue. That's going to be in your setup. So first thing is you definitely want to stay fixed. If you're at 2x, you want to be using 300 microns
Okay.
for your step size. So that's the first thing.
300?
Okay.
The second is you've got the flashes on there, which is great, but you can, if you zoom out a bit, you can see how there's significant shadows everywhere.
Yeah. No. By the way, those are some recesses into the well.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is tell you how to project light from your lens straight down so that you don't have any shadows. You get all detail.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't look like right now you have the diffuser mounted on the front of the lens. Can you
No,
confirm?
we do.
You do? Okay. So
Sorry, diffuser on the flashes, right?
No, you need your diffuse for if so you switch the lenses. So it sounds like perhaps you're using the same lighting methods that you used for the 100 millimeter for the MPE 65, and now you need to change those because you're using the 65.
Okay.
So there is a diffuser that mounts directly onto the front of the lens for the MPE 65. It's round, it has a blue ring that goes around it. There's a gasket inside of it in order to secure it snugly to the front of the lens. Do you see that?
Yeah. Are these guys?
Can you hold it up?
Yeah.
It's the one in your left hand.
This one.
That one. Yep.
Okay.
So
You also have this guy too, but
that one is for the 100 millimeter.
okay.
Yeah, and you do want to use that for the 100 millimeter if you have it hooked up. That's going to improve lighting quality much better for the 100 millimeter.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So the approach here is to mount that on the front of the MP65, and instead of shooting the lights down at your sample, you actually want to invert them. You want to point them towards that diffuser and then have the diffuser push the light back down onto your sample.
Okay.
So that's going to change a little bit, and that might take some time for you guys to work with, but I can send a YouTube video that'll sort of, it's not going to be the same system configured the same way yours is, but it will show what you need to do to get your lighting right. So I'll send you that video in an email after we show.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So there is some, like, you can see that the gasket is not perfectly seated in there.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be. So I
Doesn't
do
need to be. Okay.
and I can send you a new one, but I did test it before I sent it to you.
Okay.
But
I'll give it a shot.
you should be able to take the lens cap off and just press fit. And if it doesn't go on there, or if it's too loose, then you can mess with that gasket a little bit. But yeah, it actually it's designed to sort of pinch a groove that sits around the front lens. That's why it doesn't look like it's perfectly flush.
Okay. Sure.
Yep. It confuses a lot of people, but I have fixed that issue on the new diffusers.
And so in
But
the YouTube, it shows how the light should be
it
configured.
shows how the light should work. And basically what you want to do is you want to point your flashes towards that lens, and then you want the front of the lens, that diffuser you're holding in your hand, to point to basically push the light back up, down on your sample, and that'll illuminate everything. So that's sort of the first thing. The next thing is if we go back to that photo you were just sharing,
Yeah.
um, the the information on the top, so not the soil itself, but the right, you see. So I guess I'm curious. I don't know how magnified you are, but if you look at the epoxy around the dirt,
Yeah.
that
This
looks
was in
yeah,
Sorry, this is the epoxy he's talking about right here. Can you zoom
yeah,
up?
yeah. So that epoxy looks clear. Like until you get to that point, then it starts looking pretty poor, and that's 100%. So you should definitely be sharper than this, much sharper.
Yeah. Okay.
So the question then is what did the source data look like? You don't have the source data for this image anymore?
Not for this one. No, I think we'll have to redo
Yeah,
it.
so try to change the light and try this again, and then we'll take a look. The next thing though is the settings. Are you using the right camera settings according to that same line in the Excel spreadsheet? So the line where it said 300 microns? Yep, okay, that's good.
Okay.
Yep, so that's good, and then obviously
The
uh,
shutter was different.
Oh, the shutter was different.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was in a 1 of 100. Not I used, I guess it's not letting me change it. 1/60.
It's not letting you change it.
No, it's not. I don't know.
Is there a
well,
reason? Yeah.
this could also very well be your issue. Right now you're in AV mode. That's aperture mode.
Okay.
You need to be in manual mode at all times for this. So that's a dial that's on the top of your camera, but you have an R series, so you should be able to control that. You have an R series.
So can we control it from here, or do we need to control it from the
You
computer?
should
From
be able
the
to, but for some reason it's not letting you.
It's not.
yeah.
Can you go to the camera and spin the dial on top, and put it into M mode?
Um, there we go.
Oh,
All right, let's take a look. I mean,
So with AV mode, this is also probably this is actually probably the issue too. So just to let you know, I don't think Zareen Stacker is the issue here.
yeah.
I think Zareen Stacker is what outputs the final result, and you're not seeing a clear image, and you don't know why. So that's the situation. But I
Yeah.
think going back to some of these protocols, this is kind of why. So here, so that F11 is really high. So you want to stick with that. Yeah. So F8 is better. 1/100 is good. Your ISO is also exceptionally high. So
Okay.
um,
We noticed that the ISO in the past has had to be higher in order to get enough brightness to
right.
see
That's,
the
yeah,
image.
that's why we fixed it.
I don't know if that's normal or
well,
we bought the spreadsheet.
it's contingent on the setting on your flash.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so the flash has to be continuously changed as well. So remember how the flash works. So the flash works on a 1-to-1 ratio basis. 1-to-1 is full power, and then it goes all the way up to like 1/532 or something like that. And basically every interval, so let's say it's 1/8, that means it's firing 1/8 power, 1/8 total power. And
I see.
you don't want to go beyond 1/8. 1/8 is very bright. If you start getting into 1/4, then your power consumption goes down dramatically because what's happening is
Does the spreadsheet have the flash settings?
yep. So the flash settings are right there in that same line in the Excel spreadsheet.
Let's see. Where are they?
So it says flash, column G.
Oh, I see. 1/16. I see.
Right. So
Yeah.
you want to start at 1/16, and then you want to modify the ISO accordingly. So start at 1/16, and if your lights aren't in the right area or they're not looking in the right direction, what will happen is then potentially you could actually go to 1/8. That's going to brighten everything by quite substantially. So, and if that doesn't achieve the brightness that you need, then you go to your ISO value.
Okay.
You'll go beyond 1/8, but then you'll start to increase your ISO, and you don't want to exceed 1,000. So
Okay.
that's partly why you're having some clarity issues, but that's
Okay.
not the main reason why you're having an issue with this particular photo. I think the main issue is because you were shooting in AV mode. Can
Okay.
you confirm if that's true or not?
It seems to be. I think you're shooting in AV mode the whole time.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
that means is you were shooting in AV and you were controlling the aperture. AV mode is basically an aperture centric setting. So what that does is you can then set the aperture. So if you're at f2, for instance, your focal plane is really, really, really small. And then you're kind of controlling it so that the camera automatically recognizes all the other settings so that you get a well-lit photo for a really small focal plane. And
Okay.
that's good if, like, let's say you're an athlete photographer and you want a soccer player and you want the soccer player to be in focus, but you want the audience behind them to be super blurry. So what that does is it allows you to control that depth of field while properly illuminating the image. Conversely, what'll happen is if you're running an aperture of like f16, you'll set it to f16 and yours was up by f11, you're actually pulling that depth of field really, really wide. And by doing that, it's distorting the image quality. So that's one
Okay.
reason why your image quality has gone down dramatically. And also, you're closing the aperture in order to achieve that higher depth of field. And you would do that same thing. Let's say you wanted to you wanted to photograph a landscape, and you want the mountains in the background to be in focus, and also the house you're looking at right in front of you to be in focus. That's when your aperture is up by f11, f16. But because you're achieving that by closing the diaphragm within the lens, it's getting really small, you're blocking all of the light that can come in your camera. So that's why the ISO is set so high. It's because it's compensating for the amount of light, and this
Okay.
in this case, artificial light to properly illuminate that.
So we need to adjust that light by adjusting by the diffuser, by positioning the light better,
Yeah, you want to
and by
position.
potentially opening or allowing more of the light to come in from the flash. If the
Exactly.
1/16 isn't enough, we'll go to 1/8, and then if that isn't enough, then
Then you
then last resort we start messing with the ISO.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. So that's your workflow. And again, you
Okay.
want to stay in this manual setting. So what was happening is because you had that really high aperture, your camera was basically pulling in some problematic illumination methods to brighten
Okay.
the image, but in a way that was sort of um, would degrade the quality of your image. And that was the problem. So then you were taking a bunch of low quality images, stacking them in the Marine stacker, and then you're not happy with the result. So
So
that
if
was
we look at the original images, then
mhm.
whenever we get them, they should be, at least for the focal point or the focal plane, it should be exceptionally sharp for that single
It
image.
should be exceptionally sharp. If you
Okay.
follow every single
Yeah.
detail within this spreadsheet,
Yeah.
then you'll be getting a crystal clear image. The only thing that is hard to control is how well you set up your lighting before you capture
Yeah.
your stack.
Sure.
And
Okay.
that's something that takes a little bit of time. But like I
Yeah.
said, I'm gonna send you a link to a YouTube video. It's basically going to be how to properly light a specimen using the Macropod Pro 3D. You're going to see how
Okay.
at some point within that video, you're going to see me describe how the light bounces off the front of the lens. That's the
Okay.
most important part. And what that's going to do is it's going to provide really uniform, balanced light all the way across your subject material, and it's also what's called it's known as like Lieberkühn reflection or Lieberkühn diffuser. So basically what's happening is the light that is being emitted is coming from the same direction of image capture. So the light is going to bounce straight down and straight back into the camera, so you shouldn't have any shadows theoretically. So that's
Okay.
how it's kind of designed. So once you get a better handle on that, then I think you'll be
Yeah.
okay. But I think your main issue here wasn't so much Serene Stacker. It was it's basically, I think, those line items within the manual mode weren't set, and you were in AV, and you didn't know why.
And also taking 5 micron steps.
Well, yeah. I don't think that was on purpose. I just think there was a problem, and you were trying to address
Yeah.
it, and you went the
Yeah.
wrong way
Yeah.
down the rabbit
To go.
hole.
Yeah. Better
Yeah.
focus.
Which
Okay.
makes complete sense because there's a lot to figure out on
Yeah.
this. Especially, so this can happen because you can start with like the 100 mm and figure that lens out really well. Throw a
Yeah.
new lens on, and the game changes a little bit, and then you have to modify how your methods are being used. So
Okay.
that's the main thing.
All
So
right. Well, thank you for your help again. We'll give this a shot, and if we run into trouble, we can send you the original images, but we won't.
yeah,
I think, in other words, we can't hope to get a better image than our individual ones. So,
yeah,
like, if we have poor quality individual images, we're not going to get magically a better quality Xyring stacked image.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah,
So, okay. All right. Well, we will. Yeah, we'll send you over the original image if we get in trouble and
yeah.
we ask some specific questions. But I think I really appreciate your help on this.
No problem. Anytime.
We have been watching the YouTube videos, but
Yeah,
I think it's been a little while since we've reviewed them again. So we
yeah.
need to go back into them and do
You
it.
can
So,
you can literally call me anytime. If I respond pretty quickly, it means I can also probably jump on a Zoom call pretty quickly too.
okay.
So just be
Okay.
aware of that. And then yeah, so are you okay with me putting this on YouTube? And then
Oh
I'll
yeah,
just
sure, that's fine. Yeah,
if you
yeah.
ever need to refer to it again, you
We
can find
still,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for this. Appreciate your help.
No problem. All right, it's good seeing you again.
Likewise. See you
All
later.
right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.